Renewed hostile actions against United States ships on the high seas in the Gulf of Tonkin have today required me to order the military forces of the United States to take action in reply.
Dr. Martin Luther King, the apostle of nonviolence in the civil rights movement, has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee.
Senator Kennedy has been shot. Is that possible? He still has the gun. The gun is pointed at me at this moment. Take a hold of his thumb and break it if you have to. We will run a we had an explosion and we are defending and we agree. Let's try our best.
People calling themselves members of the Weather Underground last night planted bombs in federal office buildings in Washington and Oakland, California.
They took the babies out of the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
Survivors of the USS Liberty are demanding a congressional investigation into what happened and acknowledgement that the Israeli Air Force bombed a U.S. intelligence Navy ship.
The death of bin Laden marks the most significant achievement to date in our nation's effort to defeat al-Qaeda.
The Taliban is taking responsibility for shooting down a U.S. helicopter. More than 30 people were killed, and there are reports this morning that most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
There may be a false flag incident where some ship goes down and you be used for the excuse to accelerate the next war.
If there's one thing that has unified Democrats and Republicans, and everybody in between, it's that we all hated the bank bailout.
The Department of Homeland Security is apparently on a huge ammo buying spree.
It comes out to like 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition.
Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people.
They estimated that they would have to eliminate 25 million people in these re-education centers. And when I say eliminate, I mean kill.
I'm here to warn people. You keep telling me to shut up. This isn't a game.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
The 22nd day of January, 2014. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Alex Jones. Will be here for the next 3 hours. And we'll have open phones in the first and second hour on any subject you wish to discuss. And, of course, interspersed with a ton of vital news and information on the economy, the world, the ongoing move towards the singularity that is taking place. That is all coming up here today. The giant cold front with the Arctic vortex of global warming descending upon us. If we would have paid Al Gore money, he would have saved us from all this global warming. Of course, we did pay him carbon taxes and did pay the Clintons carbon taxes and did pay the Rothschilds carbon taxes. But you notice that it's still the global warming is annihilating us right now because if we would have paid more indulgences, they could have waved a magic wand and made the sun not to go into a cooling cycle as it has now causing the global warming. Of course, you'd think the sun cooling and putting off less heat radiation would actually make the Earth get colder, which it is getting colder, but that's actually realities. But I need to be politically correct, and I need to be honest with everybody and just say that we're weathering some of the worst heat waves the world's ever seen right now. And, you know, it's no longer global warming anyways. It's climate change. And so if the weather ever changes, well, the answer, again, is to pay the government more money and pay private interest more money, and then that will fix it. Because really it's about having guilt, feeling like you're guilty so they can run your life. You know, I've talked a lot about dehumanization the last few days, especially on yesterday's broadcast, which is the 41st anniversary of 55 million dead babies just here in America. I wonder what the estimated total of worldwide abortions have been the last 50 years. You guys look up the estimate on worldwide, because it's actual humans being killed. They just have estimates. It's not very important. You know, they can tell you exactly how many bits of information you transferred over your computer or over your smartphone in the last 3 years, but and they can tell you how many bombs the Army produced, and they can tell you, you know, basically what your insurance actuary was in 1942, but they cannot tell you how many abortions there has been. Earth Day, abortion has killed 1-2 billion people worldwide in 50 years. What does that mean, 1-2 billion people? Exactly, just no one knows exactly. It's like a billion or two, give or take. It was Stalin that said, one man dies, it's a tragedy, 10,000 die. It is a statistic. And that is certainly the truth. We're going to go to break here. We have this little first segment, and then I'm going to come back and hit some of the top stories and then throw the phone numbers out. But I do want to hear from callers. You can call in about whatever you want, but I'd really like to hear from callers. I'll try to go to you as quickly as possible. That probably means I'll go to you very, very slowly. But I'd like to hear from callers out there dealing with the situation of the culture of death and your view on abortion and where you think it's going. And if we just bypass the debate about it being a woman's right and just point out that the eugenicists and the Rockefeller Foundation got it legalized, they push it. I mean, Bill Gates is in the news, you know, saying government spying isn't always bad. This is from one of the biggest spies out there. And then we've got the fact that he's funding a better, thinner condom. And by the way, I'm not against birth control if it's your choice. The problem is they usually piggyback in the birth control something very damaging to the woman or the man. And it's just part of a larger depopulation agenda. So we should have a discussion about that today as well. The facts are in. The studies are legion. Sodium fluoride and other members of the fluorine family that are added to Western water supplies are devastating the health and cognitive ability of the people that drink it. So the question is, why are the social engineers adding it to the water? Simple. Dumb down the host population that the parasitic technocracy is feeding on. We developed Fluoride Shield to be the highest quality, highest standards because I use it every day and my family uses it every single day. Let's take a closer look at the ingredients that make up this special proprietary formula. Tamarind has been celebrated for its ability to immobilize toxic fluoride residues, while zeolites have a long history of attracting and holding toxic compounds. Enter fulvic acid, an excellent cleansing agent. Then we added the highest quality shilajit, a rare compound that is collected from the high mountains of the Himalayas. We topped it all off with the powerhouse herb cilantro that is intended to mobilize fluoride and other dangerous compounds for removal from the body. And the final touch to energize this formula is our proprietary nascent iodine. And as always, consult your physician as well because that is important. And finally, Fluoride Shield, Survival Shield, and all the products at InfoWarsLife.com grew out of my quest to try to find the very best compounds from God's cornucopia to protect myself and my family. And from our research, I believe we are bringing you the best, highest quality products. And you have that commitment from Alex Jones and the entire InfoWars crew. Coming up for about 30 minutes in the third hour, Adam Kokesh, who was recently sentenced to probation for daring to load a shotgun inside the District of Columbia as a political protest, will be joining us to talk about that and a lot more. It's been a while since he was on with us, and I was in contact with him when he was in jail. And now he can basically tell all about how he was set up on the drug charges, all of it. He's a very honest guy about smoking marijuana, but he says he was set up with the mushrooms. They were trying to get him with a felony. And the witnesses that were there said the police walked in with all these big bags they had with them, federal police. They sent the Park Service to his house for saying that he'd committed the crime of racking a shotgun in a square that was controlled by a Park Service. So it's just, imagine now, the Park Service comes to your house and then comes into it with a SWAT team and then did stuff like kick Kokesh while he was in handcuffs sitting in the bathroom, and witnesses saw that. Imagine just kicking someone for no reason in the belly because they dare engage in political protest for the Second Amendment. mean, yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. If I was a cop and I had, say, busted a child pornographer that had been abusing children, I would want to beat their brains out. The problem is, A, you can't turn into what you're fighting. B, they'll end up getting off if you beat them up. So you want to make sure that you don't do that, obviously. But that's not what they did. Dishonorably kicking somebody in the stomach when they're in handcuffs for no reason. It's the height of cowardly activity. And I'm not lionizing Kokesh, but here's somebody who was a Marine in Fallujah, comes back, is anti-war, has a lot of political courage, gets a little wild at times, might have PTSD, who knows. But the point is that at least he's not a coward. And people can sit there and Monday morning, Tuesday morning, quarterback all day long. Are you racking shotguns in D.C.? And doing it to point out that for 5 years they violated the Supreme Court ruling that they have to let people be armed, specifically in that case with a shotgun? D.C. Heller versus D.C. or D.C. versus Heller. What was the Heller case? It was an off-duty cop couldn't have a shotgun at his house. I mean, just give me a break, folks. Just give me a break. That's like saying Rosa Parks, aha, she should have sat at the back of the bus. It's so easy to say people should do things and get involved and take action. But then when they do, everybody sits there and second guesses them. And I really think when somebody's in the arena and they're trying to do the right thing, it's easy to sit back and say, hey, they should do better here, they should do better there. But what matters is who is in the arena. And it doesn't matter if their face is marred and they're sweaty and they're bleeding. They know the animating contest of liberty, and they're not the timid people that are sitting up in the bleachers that are just basically imagining in their minds that they could do a better job. Well, some of you probably could do a better job. Why don't you come get on the field? And I was paraphrasing Teddy Roosevelt. You guys pull up Teddy Roosevelt quote, "in the arena." Put that on screen for me, thank you. And I will read that on air because I think that's really what it all comes down to. There is so much to cover today, obviously. Romanian police claim they've caught Guccifer. I've actually had national media call me and call people I know repeatedly trying to find out if we were Guccifer. And Gucciardi's been called by press, and they ask questions about Guccifer. And I guess that's because there's some reference before Guccifer showed up where we were talking about Ducifer in some text articles that were up mentioning Rob Dew. It was some transcript of a show online talking about Rob Dew that some of the crew used to call Ducifer because he'd get mad if they didn't do stuff. And so the media thought that like maybe we were Guccifer. Listen, I wish I was Guccifer. I wish I was good at all this tech stuff, believe me. But they're claiming that, again, there's just so much crazy stuff going on right now. Wall Street Advisor says actual unemployment is actually 37.2. I agree with those numbers. Record 20% of households on food stamps. We've got really some huge news that I'm going to get to here in just a moment that is really earth-shaking in its import for humanity and ties into abortion, ties into the whole culture of death, ties into this entire larger system. And then we're also going to get into former Virginia Governor McDonnell, wife indicted on federal corruption charges. So he and his wife have been indicted on that. And, of course, he's a Republican. And, of course, it is a federal indictment. And it's the chef in there, money on it, a Democrat. And here's my issue. I'm nonpartisan when it comes down to what politicians really do, and I go after them. And when Karl Rove went after, what was the governor of Alabama, and clearly set him up on stuff that wasn't corruption by any benchmark, I spoke out against that because clearly he was being railroaded. Even more clearly than this case. This has a lot of evidence of baseline standard corruption, standard fraud. That's how it works. People give you gifts. People give you real estate deals and buy real estate from you that is not really valued at what they buy it for. That's a lot of standard old line fraud that goes on. And I don't endorse it. I don't apologize for it. I don't like it. The issue here is, though, taking $140-something thousand is what they're alleging over multi-years from a donor, $140,000 in loans and gifts in exchange for promoting the businesses of a political patron who was seeking special favors from the state government. It's a 14-count indictment filed by U.S. State Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, including charges of fraud and soliciting loans and gifts from Johnny R. Williams, Sr., the chief executive of Star Scientific, a maker of dietary supplements, who hoped to use the governor to promote his products. Well, can a governor not have an endorsement deal? I guess you can't while you're a sitting governor. Look what Schwarzenegger did, though. He did movies and ads and everything he wasn't supposed to. He didn't get in trouble because he was working for the big boys, selling everybody out on energy price gouging with Enron before he was governor and after, on going after guns, open borders, all these regulations, giving waivers to biotech, nanotech, and waivers to genetic engineering labs out there in Silicon Valley, but then harassing small businesses. I mean, you just look at this and you see it's selective enforcement. You go, but wait a minute, Schwarzenegger's a Republican too. Yeah, a Republican in name only. And this is the same way they went after Republicans in Texas. The Democrats used Travis County, where Austin's based, as kind of a command base to project false indictments out on different people that, you know, end up getting overturned and defeated after 5, 6, 7, 8-year battles. So my only issue here is clearly the Democratic Party, just watching them over the years, fundamentally uses dirty tricks and uses kind of a white glove inspection of their political rivals and uses the justice system as a political tool. And Republicans do that to a certain extent. It's just not their specialty. And then here, of course, is the big, giant elephant in the room. Or I should say donkey in the room. And that's that this Justice Department that is running around indicting Republicans all over the country. Republican sheriffs, Republican legislators. You really never hear about it. It'll be in the paper once. But I read local national news. I mean, I read a wide spectrum of stuff that most people wouldn't look at, and I see it every few days. That there is a purge going on via the judicial system against Republicans and conservatives and libertarians and conservative sheriffs that, you know, won't put somebody in jail when the statute says they shouldn't be put in jail for having a gun in their car when they're not a felon. You know, from Liberty County, we had him on. That was all a witch hunt set up with the Democrats. It's the same thing over and over again. And it's very, very dangerous because this is the same Justice Department that's covering up Solyndra, potato, patata, 500 million missing money or more, all the different bid rigging, all the selective enforcement of Obamacare that is total racketeering, where all of his buddies and big corporations are exempt, but little guys and Republicans aren't. Total racketeering. Remember when they did the General Motors bailout? And then people that had dealerships, in some cases for 70 years, who are not Democratic donors, would have their Chevy dealership taken. You know, they could still own the property and sell the cars they had, but they were no longer a Chevy dealership. It was given to the local Democratic Party operatives, a lot of them who weren't even in the car business. Then they would sell it back to them. I mean, that came out in Congress. Nobody got in trouble. And the problem is the corruption, the mafia behavior is so off the chart with the Democrats, and they don't get in trouble. Fast and Furious, the list goes on and on. The fact that the Attorney General sits on the board of a law firm that gets all the big payoffs on securities, the trillions missing to foreign banks, all of this going on under Obama's watch and the Republican leadership's watch as they persecute Republicans for crooked toenails around the country. This is political purges.
Hello, this is Hank Hill, and I'm telling you what, you need to listen to Alex Jones.
Yeah. Infowars.com.
Judge, what is the secret of the universe?
Infowars.com.
Coming up at the start of the next segment, I'm going to give the phone number out for your take on 55 million aborted babies. Over 1 billion aborted worldwide, but 55 million aborted since 1973 in Roe v. Wade. This week is the anniversary of that ruling. And I want to tie it into the future of humanity and tell you where humanity's going, where our species is being guided and directed to at the start of the next segment. The most important information we could possibly cover will be discussed at the start of the next segment. But getting back to the former Virginia governor, Republican, McDonnell, and his wife being indicted on federal corruption charges. He was a sports guy in good shape, and he was talking about making extra money endorsing someone's supplements. And they're claiming that violates ethics, and it probably does, but a federal indictment over that? I mean, why not a fine or make him pay the money back? I mean, that's what they do if a Democrat gets caught. I mean, they had Congress, remember, with their own congressional bank, and none of them would, ever put money in it. They would just bounce checks till it was millions of dollars apiece. But that was Democrats running that, so they didn't get in trouble there. And I'm just sick of them being above the law. And I watched Travis County and the district attorneys here and the grand juries here famously indicting Republicans in government all over the state and creating big national cases out of it over and over and over again, where they'll go, indict Republican congressmen repeatedly for taking PAC money that's totally legal. And if you don't like that PAC money, go change the law. The point is it's scary to see them go after people who haven't even broken the law clearly by every benchmark. And legal scholars around the country say, no, this is political persecution, hands down. And to know they're getting worse and worse and worse about it, that's a political purge, ladies and gentlemen. Meanwhile, the Republicans nationwide never do stuff like this. I mean, I can't think of cases, actually, where they're using grand juries at the state level to indict Democrats who hold federal office or state office. I mean, it's very rare. And it's so common with Democrats, I try to think about cases of it, and my head spins because there's so many. I mean, all of you listening know cases in your area. And this is what they do. And I was told when I ran for a Republican as a state rep for about 2 weeks till I talked to lawyers and looked at the laws, and I was really serious. I was going to raise money, do the whole deal. I was starting to raise money. And the lawyers told me, listen, with the ethics commissions and all this, there's no way to do all this properly. There's no way to comply with everything. And even if you do, you are going to run against somebody in Travis County. They are going to try to indict you. And I was young and been talked into this by pro-life people and stuff to run. And I was already popular then. What was that, in like the year 2000 or something? Wasn't well known around the country. It was very well known in Central Texas. And I'd also exposed election fraud and things, so they thought that I'd be the person to run. And then I started really getting into it, and I said, I'm getting out of this, because even if I want to follow all the laws and regulations, there's no way to be able to do this. And it's the same thing with Obamacare, with doctors and clinics and dentists. There's no way they can follow it and not break laws. It's impossible. It's written so they can selectively enforce who they want to go after. So my father was in medical management, managed 22 dental offices, and also was starting to manage medical centers. And Obamacare came in, and he's been offered even more money to stay in than he ever was. In fact, he's been offered double. to stay in medical management, and he just said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And he's semi-retired, does some work for us on vetting supplements and things like that. But this is the type of issue that is really destroying this country as we convert from a free market system, we were never perfect, to a tyranny. Why don't Republicans not go out and do dirty tricks and, you know, indict people that are innocent? Why don't grand juries at the state level, when we saw grand juries go after Clinton for perjuring himself, I guess that's a case where folks got upset enough in Arkansas just by his corruption they went after him. I guess that's a case where you could say Republicans went after him. But kind of ragtag, you know, real conservatives that went after him and almost brought him down for lying in court depositions. Why not have some grand juries go after Obama and go after Holder? Because just the indictments of even state grand juries will absolutely bring down these criminals by throwing a spotlight onto it.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.